Demon Red Mist here for video 4 of my Cyberlink Powerdirector tutorial videos. Very simple guides that I'm doing as if you are very new to video editing. If you haven't seen the first 3 videos, check them out, but if you have, let's crack on. Okay, video 4 is basically it's going to be how to put multiple processed clips together and use transitions, and the modifications that you can make to transitions, but also how to adjust the volume of video clips. Now I should have mentioned about volumes on video 3, to be honest, where I showed about editing, cutting a video clip, and on there I did show how to put together 2 or 3 video clips that haven't been processed yet, and I forgot to mention about volumes there. You can manually adjust the volumes of each individual clip, so if you find that you've got different levels of volume on different video clips, whether it just be someone's talking louder or a particular noise is louder at a certain point, you can edit that. I will quickly show how to do that actually. So if you pop your video clip onto your timeline, and then you've got keyframe, if you click on keyframe, and then pops up this box. If you go to volume and just click the drop down list, we now have 2 keyframe points on the video clip: start of the video clip, end of the video clip, and here is the volume setting. So you can pretty much increase the volume just by using the slider bar to maximum, or you can decrease it so there's no volume whatsoever. If I just quickly put this back to 0, so if I put this to 0 and just click play, you can tell that it's got volume on there. And hit stop. You have to hit stop again to edit, if I remember rightly. So if you wanted to reduce a video clip's whole volume, that's fine. You just make sure you highlight the first keyframe and then move the slider bar, or use the little drop down arrows if you want to go 1 click at a time, and reduce your volume. Then you can click on select next keyframe arrow and highlight it, right click, duplicate previous clip frame, and the volume has now changed. Yeah, both on -8.9. Now if we click play, you can tell it's a little bit quieter. Now using this keyframe tool, you can also fade volumes in and out, but don't do that for music. Well, you can, but there's other tricks you can do with music. But one thing you can also do is, if we've got it on the first keyframe, actually drop its volume all the way off. We can move the marker across, click on the add or remove current keyframe diamond, click on that, got a new keyframe, and now we can put the volume a little bit louder. So now from keyframe 1, it will go from no volume to keyframe 2, it'll increase the volume gradually all the way up to it, and if I don't adjust this keyframe, the volume is going to drop again. If we actually look on the video clip on the audio part, you see this little blue dot here, that's keyframe point 1, keyframe point 2, and keyframe point 3 just here. Now you can manually move them like this if you wish, however your ability to be precise with it is much more difficult, so I definitely prefer to do the manual movement, and then you can actually specifically time it to certain parts. But if you are adding multiple non-processed clips together and their volumes seem wrong, you're better off leveling the volume, either reducing it on one or increasing the volume, and then process that clip, and then when you go to put multiple processed clips together, again you can check the volume. But it's much easier to do sort of pre-prepare yourself. So but anyway, a quick mention of that anyway, and I'll show you that a little bit more perhaps while I'm doing this video. I also might not. Okay, so we're going to be having a look at putting together pre-processed video clips. So on video 3 you saw me put 3 video clips together, cut the 3 long video clips, cut them down to make a much shorter video clip, and then I would process that or produce it. I didn't show the producing, that'll be on video 7. But let's say, for example, that particular trio of video clips had been produced and were to be added to other video clips that had been produced. Now we come together to make our final project. However, I'm going to use different video clips for this project just to switch things up a bit. Now, I've already imported everything into my storyboard here. So one of the things you'll notice is actually if I'll import the main file that I've used here. Bear with me a second. So I've already sort of pre-prepared what I'm doing here. Okay. Right. You'll see here I've got a video clip that are here, and it's called Project Cast 2-2018, and the name goes on. That's the file that I downloaded onto YouTube from my PlayStation, then downloaded it from the PC. From YouTube onto my PC. And this particular file is an MP4 file. I don't produce videos in MP4 because the quality, the higher rates of quality is not there. If you look, resolution is 1280 by 720, but that admittedly is because PlayStation can only record in 720. And you'll see frame rate is 29.97 FPS. That is quite important when it comes to actually producing your videos. So hopefully I will highlight that when I get onto video 7. If not, you'll have seen it here. Now, even if your video is only a 720 HD video, you can still produce it in 1080, and it may give slightly better quality, but it does mean if anyone's running 1080 devices to watch videos, they can definitely watch yours in better quality. I always go for the 1080, at least then I know I'm using the same sort of system all the time. Okay, but that is basically an MP4 file. Now, I have already taken this whole video clip, which is quite long. I've cut it down, I've trimmed it, I've produced it, and I have imported the 3 video clips here, here and here, and you'll see that I've named them clip 1, and then it's .m2ts. .m2ts is the type of file type that the processed video clip is in. So I've got 3 of those, and I'm using that to give my example of like 3 pre-processed video clips that I'm now going to put together. But I'm also going to mix things up a little bit. For example, I've got the Dynamic GT intro that I produced, and that is basically a ready-made file. I've already gone through the whole editing process. This is ready to be used and just added at the start of video clips. So for example, the Dynamic GT League guys, when they come to edit their videos, they can literally get the DGT intro file, pop it at the start of their video, and then start editing the rest of their video clips. Now, the process ones that I've already got, I am going to add in while I take my time doing it. Now, one of the things that I would usually tend to do, I'm just going to pop the volume off on this for a second, is at the end of a kind of intro or a feeding in video, you'll see it faded out there, and now we're onto the logo, and the logo's just going to disappear. Now, one of the things I could do if I wished is on this intro actual clip, if I click on modify, excuse me, just click stop so I can do my edits. If I move all the way down towards the end to where that logo comes on full, I can add a keyframe, go to the final keyframe and reduce all the opacity. And then what I've got is basically a video that's going to fade out right at the end, but the music is going to keep going slightly. But I've already, on this video clip, I've already faded the music in and faded the music out. I don't have to do that separately every time I want to use this particular intro file, or any intro file. So as I play this, let's see the image fade out and see if the music does as well. Right, it does a little bit. Sometimes what I would tend to do is have the music continue playing. Let's get this to the end. Okay, where this is now a black screen, I would sometimes have the music continue playing a tiny little bit longer on a black screen, and the reason for that is you could then overlay an image to take over before you might speak, for example, but you don't have to do that. But I just wanted to show that you can still adjust the fading in and out and of the music as well if you wish. Right, I've got clip 1 here that is already produced. So I'll just undo those changes because for the purpose of this video I want it to be as it was. Okay, so I've got clip 1 here. I'm not going to play it just yet, and I'm going to add in clip 2, and you'll see that this is very similar to the previous video. However, now I'm going to want to add specific transitions. Let's say, for example, alright, okay, I'm going to play this video clip. Should I? Yeah, I will play this video clip. Okay, to give as best an example as I can. Okay, so we've got a video clip playing here. Something's going to happen. There we go. There's a crash happening. We get to see the carnage, and then all of a sudden, a bit like on video 3, all of a sudden, bosh, we're onto a different camera angle. We're going back sort of 10 seconds. So if I was editing a video, I may want to add something into that gap. Now, one of the things that you can do is go to transition room, and there are multiple options of styles of transition. There's many of them. There's custom ones. If you do custom ones, you can download. If you go to the DZ download templates, you can go in there and download items as well. There's 2D. I mean, just to show some of these. I mean, they might not look that great initially, but I will show what some of them do. Some of them can be very good, some of them are really shit. It all just depends on what it is that you're actually trying to do. So I'm going to take this one for example. So the way to use the transition is to click and hold on it, move it over to your video clip, and you'll see it produces a small yellow box that highlights part of clip 1 and part of clip 2. Drop it in, and now it is actually moved clip 2 to within clip 1. And now we can see what this is actually going to do. If you move it back a little bit and we press play, now we have a transition that has come in, and as a video editor that tells your viewers straight away, right, you've seen that bit, now we're showing you something else, whether it be we're going back 10 seconds or forward 2 days, it doesn't matter. It gives a nice clear, here's a cut. Now, for example, for a league, an online sim racing league, if you were doing a highlights video of your race, you probably wouldn't need to use transitions, but you could if you wanted. So I know, for example, James at Forever Relentless Racing will quite often, he'll watch part of his race and comment on it and stuff like you might see a crash, and then a number of laps later he might go and show what actually happened. Then he could use a transition. But if you were just going from one car to another car to another car, you wouldn't want to do that. But for a specific change, like going from sort of live action to a replay, that is something that would look pretty good with a transition. And this transition looks like it works quite nicely. Now, if you've put a transition in and it's not the one you want, it's not a problem. Let's go and pick something completely different. Let's go for a 3D one. You can click and hold on a transition, highlight it, drop it in, and it'll take it over. It'll basically replace it. Now, it won't replace any of the audio part if there's audio connected to it. Now, on this one there isn't, but there is audio parts on the 2 clips in the background. Anyway, let's play and see what this one does. So there we go, another nice transition that works very well. So transitions can be very, very good. Now you can also modify transitions. So if I actually click on the transition and go to modify, different transitions will give you different options here. For example, this one is given the choice of how long your transition will take. So if you wanted it to last 5 seconds instead of 2, just click on it and change it to 05, 00. You can also change the behavior, so whether clip 1 is going to keep playing while clip 2 is going to begin. So if I actually show you this now again, I've just done something wrong. Right, sorry about that, bear with me folks. Right, let's click on it again. Right, okay, so we're using the overlap system. If we now press, let's change the time again. Right, if we now press play, the transition takes much longer. Let's see if it's going to actually, let me just move back a bit. Okay, so yeah, the transition is going to come in much sooner. So instead of when the car is stationary, it's coming much sooner, and it's taking that little bit longer to transition, which is fine, it's not a problem. If we now actually just click stop so that we can edit it again, if we now change to the where clip 1 and clip 2 actually join together, we change it to that one, and we'll see what that does. So it's going to take the same length of time, but now during the transition we actually have a screen of black just there. So everything sort of is black, there isn't an overlay. Now you can try and add additional images in the background. Let's see if I can do it, probably won't work. If I highlight all of the video clips, it might not work on this transition, I have used it on other ones. And if I then get this picture for example, and I put it in to match the video clip, right, okay, the transition, now we'll see what happens here. Now we have the image in the background. So if you had a logo or a brand or an image you may want to use in the back, this is a very cool way of doing it. So you can have a transition while adding an extra little bit of style into it. So there we go, pretty cool. And that can be very good for certain transitions. Now like I say, there are a lot of transitions and many of them will behave very differently, but just to give an example of one I've used quite often, just to give a slight different perspective, if I can find it. So what, let's use this burning one just as a bit of a change. We'll swap it out, let's see what that one does. We'll play it. See, now that is a pretty cool transition. That is one I used on a video a long time ago, but you have a play about with which transitions, when it comes to using a transition, have a look at which ones you want to use, which ones you like, which ones visually look best and work with your imagery that you're using, but don't be afraid of having a play about with them. So if we're going to modify on this one, now again you'll see this has only got the two sort of options because of the type of transition that it is. However, I want to go and find the one that I use quite often because I know that has different options. Okay, page curl. Alright, there's page curl and there's page roll. They are slightly different, but if we play this now, the page is slowly going to curl and basically strip away the image. It's a transition that I definitely do like, and you can give the impression of pages turning basically like a book, which is pretty cool. Now with this one, if you click on it and go to modify, okay, it still shows the clip A and B either overlapping or meeting, but this time you get a choice of a direction that it's to go, right or left, so we can actually change its direction, which works quite well. So there are, if I was to sit here and go through every difference in the transitions, we'd be here for hours and hours and hours, but some of these really are very cool. I mean, I've had a lot of, not to say fun, but I've spent a lot of time playing about with some of the transitions, trying to get ones that work right for what I'm trying to do. I mean, that one again would look very good with some kind of imagery in the background. So yeah, don't be afraid of playing about with these and see what works for you. Okay, so that's the how to adjust the transitions and the modifications that you can make with some of the transitions. And as I mentioned early on, excuse me, to do with the volumes, I'll just quickly show that again. So we now here have 4 pre-processed clips that we've put together, and again with the transitions, like going from the intro screen to the actual footage screen, it's a straight cut, which visually for me doesn't necessarily work quite right. Now I'm going to show one of the tricks again that I used to use, and I want to insert this picture here, and because there's nothing else on my rows I can do insert and move all clips. and all the clips are going to move across. So I've basically got an intro file. Now I've got a blank image which I might need to write something on, and then it's going to go into the video clip. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly drop a title into this. Now you may notice as well that on these timeline rows, I'm putting my title clips into video rows, but there is a specific title row. Personally, I have tended to use a lot of different titles, so I just drop them into my video list. Okay, so if I write on here anything I like, I've got an idea of what I'm going to write. Okay, and let's just pick a okay, that colour doesn't work, let's go with white. Okay, don't like that font. Right, let's go back, let's pick white. Got to remember to click the the icon, haven't I? Otherwise it won't bloody work. Okay, that'll do. Right, I'm just going to adjust this 3D font. You will sometimes find that with 3D fonts it gives a very deep recess, or whatever it's called, at the back of the lettering, and if it is too back for the extrusion, you can reduce your extrusion just to give yourself a slightly less. And you also can choose what sort of texture you want your writing to be in. Majority of these on here are default, but you can, if you wish, like if you've googled and downloaded background images, you can use those as well. You can install them onto here. I've done that with gold and the silver chrome. Not that it worked very well. There's also yeah, pretty shit, but there's plenty of different things. You could pretty much bring any sort of imagery you want. Some will work and look very good, some won't. Anyway, let's go for something lightish. It doesn't really matter what I use here. Okay, so I've now got my intro clip. I've now got an image with some writing on, but I still need to transition these a little bit. Otherwise it's still going to go from the intro to the background image on a direct cut, which for me doesn't always look too great, and then it's going to cut out. Okay, also this writing, I don't want this writing to just sit there and do nothing. I want it to be a little more fancy than that. So let's click on motion, click on starting effect, and there are a number of different options that you can have that you want your writing to do. So just randomly pick one, and before I hit save, go to ending effect as well. Now you can have ending effect as no effect, or you can have an ending effect as something. So you can actually have your writing, and this is the same for the normal sort of font designs. You can have you can do these kind of movements with them as well. So now this image isn't just an image, it's got a little bit of more 3D-ness to it. However, I still want to adjust this, so in the form of it's just going from one scene cut to the next, I'd rather fade it in and out. Now I went through fades in and out on video 3, so I'm not going to go through how to do that again. But I've now popped a fade in and out, but let's see, we might get away with it on this one with the timing of the lettering. Yes, we do. The timing of the lettering, its movement has worked well with the fading in and out of the video clip. However, I forgot what I was going to say now, which is not very good for what I'm doing. Okay. Yeah, so it times quite well with the fading in and out, but sometimes it won't. I've got quite lucky here, to be honest. But sometimes you could spend a lot of time having movement on writing, thinking it looks really cool, and unfortunately it doesn't work. So one of the things you can do is, let's say for example I wanted a longer fade. Now I can do this manually if I wish. I don't quite often. No, it's not going to work. Okay, do this manually if I wish, which I'm going to try and do. So if I want my image in the background to sort of appear and disappear quite quickly, we'll see what effect that has on the lettering. It basically it shouldn't look right because the lettering is going to hang around a little too long. is not too bad there. But basically, you can very easily end up with wanting to fade the screen and not everything is fading on it, and that's where my prior trick to taking a screenshot and going, you know what, let's not have the writing move, we'll just put the screenshot in there, replace that, let's get rid of the writing, and now we're using an image with no moving writing, but it's going to fade in, it's going to fade out. So don't be afraid of taking a screenshot and using that. It can work very, very well. And then obviously you've got your transitions as well. Okay, now that we've basically got our video file ready, we're ready to pretty much close to producing it. Now you'd need to check whether the volume is okay or not. Now one of the things to do with the volume is go to your adjust volume and make sure it is on maximum, really. Because if it's on anything less, you could spend ages adjusting your volumes on your clips to then find out you were turning it up because your system's volume was down. Then when you upload it, it's going to be fucking loud. And also what you don't want is some really, really quiet bits. Okay, so make sure your volume's turned up. And then what you'll do is just go through at your own pleasure, really, to check the levels of volume. So if I click on this outro clip, see, now that to me right now is very loud in comparison to that. So for me, I would decide, you know what, I've got a choice. I can either turn the volume on the intro clip up, or I can turn down, or I can turn the volume up on clip 1. However, if I turn the volume up on clip 1, I've also got to turn it up on clip 2, and I've also got to turn it up on clip 3, and I would have to do each of those individually. So I could just reduce the volume of the intro video and then it'll be pretty good. Also, especially for racing videos, if you're going to be doing a commentary over it, you don't necessarily want it to be too loud, otherwise you'll end up having to turn up your voiceovers, but I'll get onto that on the next video. So yeah, so for this one I would simply just go onto keyframe and drop the volume down. I'll go -7.1, click to the next keyframe, reduce the volume by duplicating the next keyframe, and then press play. Okay, that volume has come down considerably more, and will suit better for the rest of the video. Okay, so if that was as far all of your video clips added, and you're basically ready to you're finished, you're done, now you would just produce your video. That I'll show how to do that on video 7, as I mentioned, because for video 5 what I'm going to do is give an example of how you would add a voiceover to your video clip. Whether it be a short clip or a long one, it wouldn't really matter, but I'm going to actually show it on this particular little project that I've done here. So what I will do is on the video 5 is show how to record your voiceovers and add them onto this particular video file. Then on video 6 I will show how to add any music you may want to use, and then on video 7 that'll be the final production. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope this has been a help, and if I have missed anything I do apologise, but once again this is a simple starter kit, so to speak. So have fun, have a great time folks, and I'll see you again soon.